Welcome, everybody. Hello. Thank you for joining us to another episode of Ministering Over Fostering. As you all know, these are our favorite monthly things to do. Lakeisha and I absolutely love them. And then, of course, we get to enjoy our special guests and people that we absolutely love. So I'm going to give it off to Lakeisha, and she's going to guide us from here because we're going to hear more about our special guest in just one moment. So go ahead, Lakeisha, take us on.
Yes. So I feel like I'm always excited, but I'm really excited for this particular person, Dr. Janiel Henry. We met her at an event at Empower Den, and we are very excited to have you here today. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm so excited to be here with you both. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. So to get right into our interview, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience within your career.
Yes, absolutely. I am a licensed psychologist in the state of California, and I'm also the CEO and owner of Women Rise Psychological Wellness Center. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit. But how I got started is I was actually in high school, and the high school I was attending had a peer support program, basically where you're kind of like a peer advocate, or not a counselor, but you support your peers that are transitioning through a lot of things. And I just really fell in love with it. And so fast forward to now, throughout my career, I've been able to just work in different spaces, community mental health settings, schools, private practices, assisted living, been able to really see the needs that are out there, especially for women and women across the lifespan.
That is amazing to hear that it actually developed during high school and that you even had that resource to even explore that. That's
absolutely
huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we go back to the Wellness Center, because I know you offer so many different things there, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so we're actually a integrative wellness team. And so our center is a boutique integrative wellness center for adult women, and everyone on our team provides some aspect of either mental health or overall wellness services for women. So for example, we have therapists, licensed clinical therapists on our team that provide psychotherapy. We also provide massage therapy and nutrition services. We have yoga, meditation, and sound healing. We also have pregnancy and postpartum support. And we're able to work as a team, and also interested in attending one of our events or workshops. We also provide speaking engagements and wellness for organizations. And so we're here to support women holistically, right? We're here to support the whole woman so that they can really thrive, right? And shift from surviving to thriving.
I think of, like, as a woman, to think of there's this space where it's like a one-stop shop for everything that I am, right? As a whole person in general. So we're complicated beings. That's the reality. And so much, I think sometimes we focus so much on one area of our life and we tend to misplace other areas. Like maybe we sacrifice health because we're so focused on, being mom or being whatever business and profession, or we, let go of spirituality or some other aspect of our lives. And all of it is so important. So I love that it is a one-stop shop that we can go and get it all.
Yes. And I love how you explained it as it's a boutique. Like, I've never heard of that before when you think of like wellness, right? And I feel like some of the terms out there, it almost makes people feel afraid to even go.
But when you hear overwhelming, right?
Yes. So I absolutely love that. I mean, your practice, you guys are covering every aspect. I think that me and Myra need to visit one of these workshops very soon.
I would love to have you anytime.
That's amazing. I know you went over a lot of the different programs, specialty services that you offer at the Wellness Center. When we think, because we serve a lot of young adults and a lot of young women, and a lot of times we hear sometimes like they have not been to the doctor, like they're scared to go to the doctor, or they're just scared to reach out in general because they feel like they're going to be judged. What are some tips based on the services that you even offer that you can give to some of our young listeners, young adults, as to how to make wellness a priority in their life?
Yes, it's something so needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I think about making it a priority, like a little bit we were talking about earlier, we have to know that it's something that we need, right? We have to know what it is that we need. And so one of the first things is really to tune in more intentionally to your body, to, your mental health, to really see and understand, like, what is it that I need, right? Do I need to be more connected? Do I need rest, right? Do I need more support? And not being afraid to ask for help, especially like when you're navigating adult systems like healthcare and, wellness. It can be really overwhelming. Like, where do I even start?
Yes.
And that fear can prevent us from just taking that first step. And so one of the tips that we have is just get started, right? Just get started. You can feel that fear and discomfort, and you can also do it anyway and not let it take over. So just get started, reach out. And if you run into any barriers or obstacles, we like to say, keep knocking, right? Keep knocking. There may be many different opportunities or resources that are available. But if maybe we get like one obstacle, then we might stop. But it's so important to keep knocking and to keep going because you can find your resources and community when it comes to wellness.
This is amazing because, I've started working with some women as well. We actually have multiple campuses internationally. And so I've been starting to work with some of these women. And one of the things that I have come across is that as women, one, we are our worst critic, right? We come and our negative voice is the loudest negative voice that exists around us for whatever reason. But you said something so powerful. Sometimes we just need to rest. And I don't know why, but this is what I have found across the board internationally from some of the women that I've spoken to. When we think of rest, we tend to think that we're not doing enough, or that we're not, if we're not involved in busyness, then maybe there's a lack of value or a lack of purpose. And so sometimes we are literally functioning on fumes because we're taking on more than we can handle. We're not reaching out for help. We're stressed. We're anxiety. I mean, all of these things. And we're trying to look like we're holding it all together, and we're not. And something as simple as I need to just wind down and rest is so powerful and full of self-care. And yet we don't tend to do that. I don't know if you've seen that, Dr. Janelle, with the women that you work with.
I do all the time, right? There's so many roles, so many situations, whether it's caring for a family member or your own family, or just learning how to care for oneself. It can be very difficult, right? To shift to, okay, what is it that I need? Especially when we're not used to it. It's like, how can I even recognize what I need when I've never focused or paid attention to that? It can feel so foreign, so uncomfortable. It's like, I don't even know what I need. We hear that often. I don't even know what I need. I don't even know where to start. This is actually American Heart Month, and this past week we had our Empower Her workshop. And so two of the nurses from Pomona Valley Hospital were speaking on how we're seeing more heart attacks and cardiac issues at younger and younger ages, right? And that blows us away, right? Because, and it's also telling that we need to do a better job of taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. Right.
That's so true, because when you think of women carrying on so many things on their plate, and a lot of times when it's time to take that break, they don't know how, or they feel like they're quitting. Mm-hmm. And I know I've been a victim of that many times. Like, okay, I have nothing to do. Well, what do I do?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, you just be present. Yeah. Gosh, that's such a disadvantage that it's such a major concern across the board with a lot of women too. This is something that we should look out for as women, because I know a lot of heart attacks too are silent. We have no clue at all. what would be some helpful tips as to slowing down and taking some time for ourselves as like our resource families, parents, even our young adults? What tips would you give them?
Yeah, so the first thing would be to really consider letting go of this idea that self-care only looks like taking a really fancy vacation or maybe just like doing a bubble bath. And those can be self-care things for some. At the same time, it doesn't have to be that way. Right? Just getting started in small ways with things that you already do can be a great starting point. So for example, if you're someone that may drink coffee or tea in the morning, you can create a whole mindful, attentive experience where you're connecting with all five senses, where instead of just rushing and just making your cup of coffee or, running out the door and just jumping on your phone as soon as you wake up, maybe you can ease into the morning and just slow it down for yourself, where you actually pay attention to what does the tea taste like? What does it smell like? What is the feel of the warm mug as it's in your hand, right? To allow yourself to connect to all five senses. What are the sounds that you hear in the morning? And this can be a really great exercise just to get started in slowing down. And what we see is when we begin our day and ease into the day in that way, it actually can impact, our stress levels throughout the rest of the day, right? It almost like lowers our baseline and sets us up for some more resilience throughout the day.
It's amazing because I think often it's the first thing that we do when we wake up is possibly look at our phones,
yes.
look at emails. So the act of enjoying that cup of tea or coffee in the morning, I'm going to remember that.
Yes.
We'll have to ask our youth, Myra. You enjoy your tea and coffee this morning, like really enjoy it.
I really felt like Dr. Janiel was like speaking directly to me, and I could see eye contact because I'm always rushing in the morning. Like, we're so busy. And a lot of the times I don't even get a chance to sit and even like have my cup of coffee. I'm drinking it on the road as I'm getting to my house, and then by the time I get to it, it's cold and so I think just being more intentional about if that means giving myself more time right before I start my day to just sit down and just relax, just sit and breathe and we teach all of this stuff, but it's so hard to actually apply it in the day-to-day. And I think it does make a difference, right? Maybe pray in the morning, give yourself some space, read a little bit before you get started, whatever that looks like. But I think it does affect the rest of the day, because if I'm already rushing and I forgot something and I'm frustrated and then I'm in traffic and
just keeps piling.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a conviction for me, Dr. Janiel.
I'm glad it spoke to you. Yes. It's such a reminder to all of us, right?
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
It's a simple task, but I don't know why it's so hard that morning to get started. But I know we talked about some of the concerns that I've seen in women, but are there any other common concerns or any other common challenges that you have found with women or young women that have come to you?
Yes, one that's really been on the forefront, especially with the last 3 to 4 years in the pandemic, has been a lot of anxiety, right? We're living in a time where there's a lot of unpredictability, and has been over the last couple of years, how that's changed our world, and worries, concerns about the future. And then also with social media, also comparison, right? And so with all of that, one can feel like, oh, they're not doing what they need to do. They're behind. They're not able to do what others are able to do. And then also how things are going to work out in the future, right? When we think about just being this age during this time, when you might think about gaining independence and transitioning, and then we have a global trauma like COVID-19 and how that impacts everyone, and it has impacted a lot of our systems. And so anxiety is one of the top ones.
So
and along with that, some depression as well.
Just imagine like the fear, right? The fear of like, what comes next? What am I going to do? And then having to navigate day-to-day life with uncertainty, and that does bottle up for anxiety, you know, just I'm scared, I don't know what to do, I don't know what's going to happen next. And then how do you come back down from that?
Yes. It can feel paralyzing, right? Like in the body, like it's hard to control the worry. Maybe I have a hard time relaxing. And it's important, right, to recognize, okay, this is actually something that's happening for me.
That is incredible. And I think of, you know, some of the common concerns that we hear too, when you mentioned anxiety and depression, is sometimes the youth that we work with, they see on social media other young adults their age that are going to college or already know what they want to do in life. And they have no clue what they want to do. And it's like, I love the fact that you said, you know, well, we shouldn't compare because we're all at different stages, you know? I mean, I changed my career so many times before I actually decided to get into social work. You know, just with our stories alone, left our job to start something new, and at 42. So everything happens at different stages of our life. We can't look at what is on social media. And a lot of times what we see on social media, people fail to realize the hard stages. Nobody puts the hard stages out there. It's just like instant gratification. I got this. I didn't work hard for it. And so I can see how that can create anxiety and depression in that aspect as well.
It's funny because my husband and I went to his country last year for the first time, out to El Salvador, and I was sharing this with Keisha because one of his family members has all of the ability to travel back and forth from here. And I asked her, I said, if you have that ability, why don't you go over there with us? And she says, you know what? She says, out there, you guys work to live life. And she says, here we live life, and work kind of is just part of that. And she says, you guys is just work. And there's just so much busyness, and you're trying to catch up to life, right? Like you sometimes forget to live life because you're just in such busyness. And she says, and that's not the case for us here. Work is just a means for us to have a resource, and we live life. She says, and I cannot imagine living in that stress. And it was making me think, as you were speaking about this idea of comparison, like the society that we live in, right? You get to a certain age and people are already asking, like, you know, when are you getting married? Are you going to go to college? And this and that. And then you graduate or you get married and people are already asking, when are you having your first child? Or are you going to go back for a master's? Or are you going to go back for a doctorate? And then you have that child and you get a master's, and okay, like what's next? And are you having another child? And you're like, wait, like, let me breathe, right?
Yes.
And so, like, trying to catch up. And what she told me last year, and I shared this with Keisha because I was like, it was so mind-blowing for me to see the perspective of someone outside that sees us. And I'm like, we need to live life a little bit more. We do need to be more present in where we are. We need to just take it day by day because we're so worried about what comes next. We forget to enjoy where we are.
Yes, absolutely agree with all of that.
So sad.
And it is. And that's such a good point because, you know, there is this myth of urgency in our culture that's just rampant, right? That we have to like bust out in the morning and do all these things. And we oftentimes don't slow down and have an opportunity to really savor and take in what we're actually enjoying, right? And so it's a practice. It's like a muscle, right, to build. And it's never too late to start building that.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true.
I love that. So tomorrow morning, I will wake up very slowly and enjoy my cup of tea, because when you even explained it, I was sitting here visualizing like, oh, that sounds so wonderful.
Be like, Dr. Janiel gave me permission for a rest day. I'm off tomorrow.
Sorry, Myra.
It's time for tea. It's time for tea. Oh.
I love that.
Well, Dr. Janelle, I am just curious to pick your brain as a last minute. I know it's not a question on here that we have, but knowing that we work with young ladies, and a lot of these young ladies, as you know, have come out of foster care and they're trying to pick up their life together. They've navigated so much trauma. Some of them navigated rejection and abandonment and just so many other things that they're carrying just from the work that you do and all the amazing and beautiful things that you have done to help so many women get through their walks of life. What is just a last minute, a tidbit, something that you can tell our young ladies that are listening to you today about what comes next for them or how they can manage as they're getting ready to start their life?
Yes. The first thing is to really own and recognize your own path, right? Challenge that comparison, number one. But then also being intentional about building your community and social supports, right? This is one that I would definitely recommend because when we go through a lot of stress, right, a lot of traumas, we've experienced abandonment or relationships that haven't been helpful or that have been harmful, it's important to have that space where we feel safe, right? Who are safe people? Who is our safe community? And recognize that it doesn't have to be from a long time ago. We can establish connections in the present. And so as you take some time, all of us, we do have more connections sometimes than we think about, right? So who is that person in your life, whether it's like a resource center, whether it's a family member or a friend that you feel like is a safe person for you, right? And how do you nourish and water that? And so we want to encourage you to honor your own path, right? Take time for you, do that self-care, but also recognize that you can't do it alone. You know, it's okay to get support. It's okay to get help and to remember that even in times that it's hard or difficult. And it can take time, but it can be really worth it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I love that. And thank you for pointing out that as the person basically grows, like their community can change. Yeah. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one more I might add, as you were speaking that I just thought about it, is to allow yourself to trust joy. And I say that specifically because, when we've experienced a lot of stress, trauma, it can feel uncomfortable to be like, oh, this is something that brings me joy. I could think, okay, is this going to last? Should I trust it? Right? So pay attention to what are those things that help you feel good inside, right? What are those things that lift your spirits, that keep you going, right? That give you comfort and hope in difficult times, and allow yourself to tap into that.
I was thinking as you were talking about like this idea of making brand new connections. I read the other day, and I'm gonna botch this, so I apologize to whoever the writer is on this because I don't even know who it was, but it said something about like the barrier between moving forward and staying stuck where you are is having hope for the change in your past. And the moment you let go of hope for change in your past is the moment you can move forward. And it was just so impactful for me because I think so many times we, when we have come from a difficult background or we've experienced pain or hardship, or like you said, relationships that should have been there to protect us and weren't, you tend to live and kind of get stuck in this like the past can change. And the reality is that the past cannot change. What happened has been done, and the people who have damaged us, they've damaged us, and that can't change. And the moment we let go of that hope for that to change, we can start to look forward, and we can start to anticipate that tomorrow is new. And I think that's where we can start to build these new connections and really give ourselves permission to step out of this hope that keeps us stuck. It's a barrier to move forward. So I absolutely love that you said that, because we can give ourselves permission to new relationships. Move forward.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And heal, right? That's where the healing comes.
Oh. I told you this. You have the most soothing voice I've
She's like a breath of just like fresh air. And I remember when we met you, I think Myra and I spoke about you very highly, almost like the whole car ride back after the workshop, because your presence, you're just amazing, and you really don't find too many people like you out there, especially when you first meet them. So I thank you just for being a huge resource. And we met some of your team, and they're just as amazing as you are. Just thank you for being that beacon of like light and hope within the community.
Oh, it's an honor, and thank you so much for those kind words. I received them, and me and my team are just so grateful to be able to serve our community in this way. And so thank you so much for having me, and also creating a space for these conversations, right? We need more of it, and I'm so grateful that we met and connected, and I appreciate also within you all just the light and hope that you carry for what you do and your whole community.
Thank you, Dr. Janiel. And as we get ready to conclude today's wonderful, wonderful episode, we are so grateful to you. We're going to be connecting all of the information where people can find you. But if we have a young lady that was just blown away, maybe by your voice, and they're like, I want to see her, I want to know where she is, where can they find you so that they can do a quick search? And we'll also attach all of your information and links at the bottom of this episode.
Yeah, so they can go to our website and actually fill out the contact form, and we'll get that notification and then reach out to anyone who's seeking support and be able to speak with them, like maybe for a consultation, and discover and understand like what it is that their concerns and needs are, as well as like what are some options, right?
Awesome. Lakeisha, any last words before we close out today?
I'm just so grateful for the information that you gave, and I know that it will be so helpful for our listeners.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. And whoever's listening, know that it's a process and it takes time.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. Janiel, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye.
Take care. Thank you, guys.